Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my mom live with me? I, 26F, currently live with my mom, 53F, who moved in with me about a year ago. I'm engaged to my boyfriend, 30M, calling him A, and we're getting married in 6 months. He moved to another city 4 months ago for a better job, and the plan was always that I'd move there too. It's closer to both our hometowns and makes more financial sense. I recently got a better job there as well, so everything aligned. Also, both my current city and the city I'm moving to are extremely expensive. Living together isn't just a cute idea. It saves us a lot of money. And that part is really important to me because we're funding most of our wedding ourselves, and I have zero financial support from either of my parents. I don't have huge savings, so being financially smart right now isn't optional. Now, enter my mom. For context, my childhood was bad. Both my parents were physically and emotionally abusive. They were also very sexist and clearly favored my younger brother, who was also better academically as a kid. I was constantly told I wasn't good enough, made to feel like a burden, and exposed to things a child should never hear. Growing up in that environment felt like navigating a minefield every single day. I remember standing in the kitchen as a young girl, trembling while listening to my parents scream at each other, only for the aggression to be immediately turned onto me. If I dropped a spoon, it wasn't an accident. It was proof that I was useless, careless, and lazy. Meanwhile, my younger brother could do no wrong. He was given space to study, praised for every tiny milestone, and protected from the household chaos, while I was burdened with chores, harsh criticism, and physical punishment whenever either of my parents had a bad day. My mom's justification for how she treated me? That my father didn't treat her well, so she took out her frustration on me, which I still don't even know how to process. She actually sat me down years later and casually admitted that whenever my father humiliated her or gave her the silent treatment, seeing my face just made her angry. She saw me as an extension of him, or perhaps as an easy target who couldn't fight back. It affected me a lot: anxiety, very low confidence, and even phases where I was too scared to speak as a child. I spent years of my youth sitting in my room, hyperventilating at the sound of heavy footsteps in the hallway, constantly feeling like my presence alone was an inconvenience to everyone around me. Things changed a bit in my teens when my parents' marriage went downhill. My mom faced financial issues, and her own parents didn't support her either. They were also quite sexist. They openly told her that a married woman belongs with her husband regardless of how he treats her, leaving her entirely isolated. That's when she kind of realized how she had treated me, and her behavior improved somewhat. She helped me when she could, and once I moved out, our relationship became manageable. We had a distant, polite dynamic. We spoke on the phone once a week, kept conversations superficial, and for a while, I thought maybe we had finally reached a stable ground where we could exist in each other's lives without open conflict. Now that I've actually managed to build something for myself, did my MBA, worked hard, and am earning decently more than 2x of my brother, not that it should matter, but it somehow does in this family, I feel like I'm finally at a point where I can make independent decisions. Working through business school while dealing with untreated anxiety was absolute torture, but I pushed myself because I knew financial freedom was my only ticket out of the generational dysfunction. When I landed my current job and saw my first real paycheck, I felt a sense of relief I had never known. But in my family, my success wasn't celebrated. It was sized up. Suddenly, my relatives started commenting on how much money I was making, and my mom began dropping subtle hints about how nice it must be to have disposable income. Which is exactly what's becoming an issue. Living together again has been a different story. Initially, she said she wanted to stay with me to help, and I was genuinely grateful. When she first brought up the idea of moving in a year ago, she framed it as a supportive gesture. She told me I was working too hard and that she wanted to take care of the household, so I could focus on my career. I fell for it. I thought maybe this was her way of making up for my childhood, a chance for us to build a real mother-daughter bond. But now, she picks fights constantly over random things. I'll come home exhausted after work, and she'll start yelling. One time it was because I called the place my house, which, respectfully, I pay the rent and every single other expense for with no financial support. I'm on the lease, so yeah, my house? I remember walking through the door after a grueling 11-hour day, setting my keys on the counter, and saying, "I'm so glad to finally be back in my house." She immediately snapped. Her whole face twisted, and she started screaming that I was arrogant, that I was trying to make her feel like a homeless parasite, and that a proper daughter would never use language that excluded her mother. I stood there in silence, completely shocked, watching her turn a simple, tired comment into a full-scale assault on my character. I have mild OCD tendencies around cleanliness. She is the opposite, hoards things, overorders, leaves stuff lying around, keeps expired food, and there is literally mold in the house. When I try to throw things out, she creates a whole scene. I have walked into the kitchen to find containers of takeaway food that have been sitting in the back of the fridge for over 3 weeks, covered in fuzzy green patches. When I reach for the trash bag to discard them, she rushes over, pulls the containers out of my hands, and insists the food is still good or that she will eat it later. She orders cheap plastic trinkets, discount kitchen items, and random clothes online in bulk, letting packages pile up in the entryway until walking through the front hall feels like navigating an obstacle course. When I ask her to clean, I get, "Then you do it yourself? What's stopping you?" And yes, technically I could clean it myself. But after a 10 to 11-hour workday, coming home to extra mess and actual mold just overwhelms me so much that I lose all motivation and it spikes my anxiety. To be fair, she does help with cooking and laundry, and I do really appreciate that. I try to hold on to those small moments of helpfulness to remind myself that she isn't entirely malicious, but the physical environment of the apartment constantly keeps my nervous system on high alert. I also cover all her expenses: food, clothes, furniture, jewelry, literally anything she wants, she gets. She lives very comfortably with me. If we go to the mall, she adds items to my shopping basket without even asking. If she wants a new set of pots or an expensive piece of traditional jewelry for an upcoming event, I swipe my card because avoiding the fight feels easier than standing my ground. She gets to enjoy a lifestyle supported entirely by my labor, while contributing nothing financially. Now the main issue. When I told her I'm moving to live with A, she assumed she would come live with us. When I said no, she completely flipped. She refuses every alternative. She won't live with my father. Their marriage is essentially over in every practical sense, and neither of them can stand being in the same room for more than 5 minutes without screaming. She doesn't want to go to her hometown, no parents, toxic relatives. She claims that moving back there would be a humiliation and that her extended family would mock her for not being taken care of by her children. My younger brother lives in a cheaper city where it would be much easier financially, but he has refused to live with her. Convenient. He flat out told her that his apartment is too small and that his lifestyle doesn't accommodate a full-time parent. Because he set a hard boundary, my mom completely gave up on pressuring him and redirected all that intense pressure back onto me. I even suggested getting her a separate place near us, so I can still support her, but have my own space. Yes, it would be a significant expense, rent plus groceries plus utilities, but I was willing to do it for some peace. I spent hours researching small one-bedroom apartments near our proposed new neighborhood, calculating my budget, and figuring out how much overtime I would need to pull to cover her rent alongside my own household costs. But when I presented the layout and photos to her, she threw the papers onto the table and scoffed. She accused me of trying to isolate her and treat her like an outcast. She refused that too. She also believes she can manage on her own financially because she recently got into an MLM scheme and has invested around $10,000 in it, thinking it will make her very rich once it takes off. I don't think she's ever seeing that money again. I've explained to her so many times these things don't work, but she refuses to listen to me. A few months ago, some former acquaintance convinced her to sign up for a distribution network selling overpriced health supplements and cosmetics. She wiped out a massive portion of her remaining savings to buy starter inventory that is currently stacked in boxes inside my living room, taking up half the wall. Whenever I try to show her articles explaining how these multi-level marketing structures operate, she waves her hand dismissively, telling me that I think I know everything just because I have an MBA, but that she has real-world intuition. Instead, she insists I must live with her. Since I refused, she's been saying things like, "You're a selfish daughter. You'll regret this when I'm gone. I supported you and did so much for you, and this is how you repay me. Are you suddenly so in love with A that you can't live a few more months with your mom?" She brings this up every week. Every conversation eventually circles back to my supposed betrayal. I can be standing at the kitchen counter making coffee in the morning, and she will walk in, look at me with absolute contempt, and bring up how cold-hearted I've become. If I try to talk about wedding planning, she turns it into a lecture about how I'm prioritizing a man over the woman who gave birth to me. If I try to remain silent, she accuses me of being passive-aggressive and cold. Logically, I know living with her is bad for my mental health and doesn't make financial sense for me right now. But after hearing this repeatedly, I'm starting to question myself. I spoke to A and my best friend, and both of them said the same thing. My parents are the selfish ones here for prioritizing their comfort and control over letting me live my life. I spent hours listening to me cry over video calls, gently reminding me of everything I had overcome to get here and pointing out that enabling my mother's behavior would destroy our chances of building a peaceful home together. My best friend was even more direct, telling me that my mom was using guilt as a weapon to maintain a free ride and that I needed to stop acting like her parent. Today, she started the same argument again, and I finally snapped that I will not be living with her. We were sitting in the living room, and she brought up the move again, asking when I was going to look for a 3-bedroom apartment in the new city so she could have her own guest suite and hobby room.
I felt something snap inside my chest.
All the years of suppressed rage, the childhood trauma, the working late hours only to come home to mold and screaming fits, boiled over at once. I stood up, looked her dead in the eye, and shouted that I was done. I told her in no uncertain terms that she was not coming with me, that A and I were starting our life as a married couple alone, and that I will not be living with her. She froze for a second, then started crying loudly, calling me heartless and ungrateful, while I just walked out of the room because I couldn't bear to look at her anymore. Now I'm seriously considering stepping back completely, stop trying to arrange housing for her, and let her figure things out herself. But I feel extremely guilty even thinking that. Update. This took me really long to type out, and I don't have any energy left, so really sorry for any typos. Things have kinda escalated with my mom, and I'm honestly just done. A few days ago, I got home from work while I was on a video call with A. My mom immediately started the same argument again. She told me I wasn't going to live with him, I was going to live with her instead, then asked whether I was just planning to do whatever I wanted. The way she spoke made it sound like I wasn't an adult making decisions about my own life, but someone she still expected to control. She insisted everything would happen according to what she wanted. That was the point where I lost my patience. I told her that yes, I would make my own decisions, and I wasn't asking anyone for permission. I was moving in with A, and that wasn't up for debate anymore. After that conversation, I stopped engaging with her altogether because there was nothing left to discuss. Every conversation circled back to the same demand, and I didn't have the energy to repeat myself anymore. Today something happened that made everything much clearer. I was once again on a video call with A when my mom unexpectedly called him. She almost never contacts him directly, so we both found it strange. Since I was sitting right there, I asked him to answer on speaker so we could both hear the conversation. It started normally with casual greetings before she quickly shifted to asking why I wasn't speaking to her anymore and whether she had done anything wrong. I kept the conversation calm and simply told her I'd been under a lot of stress because of the move and because I needed to sell most of my furniture before relocating. She briefly suggested what she thought I should do with the furniture before moving on to what she actually wanted to discuss. She brought up the fact that I planned to move in with A and questioned why we needed to live together before marriage. According to her, the wedding was only a few months away anyway, so there was no reason to rush. She also pointed out that both of us earned well and claimed money shouldn't be an issue. A explained that being able to afford something doesn't mean it's a smart financial decision. We have an expensive wedding coming up, we're paying for almost everything ourselves, and we're also hoping to build a business together in the future. Since I don't receive financial support from my parents, saving wherever possible is simply the practical thing to do. Instead of acknowledging that, she suggested I should ask my father to fund our future plans. For context, this is the same man who wouldn't spend money on basic things for me growing up. Vacations, outings, clothes, books, even internet access for studying were treated like unreasonable requests. Hearing her present him as some reliable source of support was honestly unbelievable. Then the conversation took another turn. She implied that if we couldn't wait until marriage to live together, we should just admit it, and she would personally inform A's parents that we insisted on living together before marriage. She even added that if anything happened, it wouldn't be her responsibility. A stayed surprisingly calm and simply replied that he had no problem talking to his parents. That clearly wasn't the answer she expected because she immediately demanded to know why we couldn't just wait. He explained that 6 months wasn't even a guaranteed timeline anymore because despite everyone talking about a wedding, almost nothing had actually been planned. The original expectation had been to get married by December, which is now even closer, yet no real progress had been made. She argued that nothing had been discussed because I never spoke to anyone. I disagreed. He reminded her that I had introduced both families, shared everything about him, arranged meetings, and done everything expected from my side. After that, it was also the responsibility of the parents to move things forward. He mentioned that I had repeatedly asked what the next steps were, but eventually stopped because nothing ever happened. Like anyone else, I had dreams about my own wedding too. Instead of responding to any of that, my mom insisted she knew me better than anyone because she had raised me and cared about me. I wasn't rude or confrontational. He simply pointed out that none of that answered the question of why we couldn't live together. That's when she shifted the conversation into making herself the victim. She listed everything she believed my parents had done for me, including raising me, educating me, making me capable, and even mentioned that she regularly posts my pictures on WhatsApp status as proof of how much she loves me. She claimed they could arrange a wedding within a month if they wanted to and suggested that maybe she had failed as a parent because I had become so ungrateful. She then brought up my younger brother and asked what would happen if he came to visit me. I looked genuinely confused because my brother barely speaks to me. He pointed out that even if he did decide to visit, I would otherwise be living in a women's hostel where male visitors aren't even allowed, so we'd have to meet somewhere outside regardless. She acknowledged that my brother doesn't talk to me, but somehow argued that it was my responsibility to make more effort because I'm older. She even asked what my plan would be if he randomly showed up outside my hostel. Then, almost as if she wanted sympathy, she announced that nobody needed to worry about her because she'd take care of herself and figure out where to live since apparently nobody was doing anything for her anyway. I immediately reminded her that I'd been supporting her financially all this time. She admitted that I spend a lot of money on her and that she tells other people how well I take care of her, but followed it by asking what my problem was with simply living alongside her. Then she added that if she died tomorrow, I wouldn't be able to bring her back. At one point, A said something that really summed up how he sees our relationship. Marriage is largely a social formality, and he already considers me his wife. To him, signing papers months later doesn't suddenly make us more committed than we already are. My mom's only response was that he should explain that to his parents instead. He agreed without hesitation. Before the conversation ended, I quietly mentioned that I had started feeling as though nobody was actually excited about my wedding, and that it often felt like nobody cared about how I felt. My mom responded that of course I would feel that way because he had become my priority and I couldn't see anything beyond him anymore. She then suggested that maybe she had failed because I wasn't comfortable sharing things with her. A encouraged her to speak to me directly, adding that he would never make decisions for me. I'm 26 years old, fully capable of making my own choices, and whatever decision I make, he'll support first because that's how partners should work. She answered by saying that now both of us would only listen to ourselves instead of anyone else. He calmly replied that wasn't true, but naturally, he would always put me first. Her final comment was delivered in the same sarcastic tone she'd been using throughout the call. She said she was glad I'd found someone I could tell everything to because apparently I couldn't do that with my own mother anymore. She told us to do whatever we wanted and hung up before A could respond. By that point, I was crying. Listening to your own mother describe you as ungrateful while dismissing everything you've done for her was incredibly painful. More than anything else, that conversation made me realize she isn't interested in understanding me. The only outcome she wants is getting her own way. Before this happened, I genuinely intended to rent her a one-bedroom apartment close to wherever A and I ended up living. It would have been a significant financial burden, but I had accepted that because I still wanted her to be comfortable. After everything that happened, especially after hearing that conversation from beginning to end, I've completely changed my mind. I'm done arranging housing for her. She can decide what she wants to do next. If she can afford to lose around $10,000 to an MLM scheme despite everyone warning her, then she's capable of figuring out her own living situation as well. I had also booked her an executive class train ticket because I wanted her to experience business class while traveling from my hometown to my new city. I canceled that reservation today. I'll be making the journey alone. After spending my entire childhood watching my brother receive the treatment I never did, I think it's time she relies on the child she always chose first. I'm done carrying responsibilities that no one else in this family is willing to share. I feel really low right now, and I genuinely don't know what to do ahead. The thought of your own parents not giving a shit about you is painful. I'll get over it. It's still hard to handle the guilt of the thought that I'll leave my mother to fend for herself, but I'm so done with these people. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update.